Welcome back, guys. Today I thought I'd take a look at a few Debian distributions. Um, I've been running Debian Stretch, the new Debian 9, as my daily driver for a week or two, and it's been rock solid. But I wanted to take a look at the latest offerings from Sparky Linux, SolidX, and Point Linux to compare. So the first one that I'm taking a look at is Point Linux. Now, I've always liked Point Linux. To me, Point Linux has always been the Linux mint of Debian. It's a simple, not a lot of add-ons, very simple Debian distribution, but it's always been rock solid. The problem with Point Linux right now is that it's not being updated properly. I don't think it's had a whole lot of attention lately. It's still running kernel 3.16. It's still at Debian Jessie. Um, there really isn't a lot of proprietary utilities to help you install. It's more like a basic Debian install. If I look at the XFCE menu, there's not a lot in here that sets it apart from a standard Debian installation. If you go through all of the applications installed, you'll see there's not a whole lot of uh, exclusive type or proprietary type utilities. Now, because this is set up as Debian stable, or Debian Jessie, I should say, I needed to modify the sources. Now, if I look at Synaptic, really all I did was change the wording. I took out Jessie and I put in stable, so it would default to the latest stable, which is Stretch. I disabled the Point Linux repos because this is actually the fourth time I've installed uh, Point Linux today. And the first time I disabled the Point Linux repos. I tried to do some driver installations. Then I tried to update the kernel, and that pretty much botched the system. So I tried a few different options, a few different strategies, uh, and then I settled on this particular strategy, which is just let it install, disable the Point Linux repo, change to stable from Jessie, do the update, then install my drivers manually. So I installed my NVIDIA drivers manually. I'm running 375/66. I've got the 3.16 kernel, which is an older kernel. Uh, I installed headers so that my Wi-Fi, my Realtek Wi-Fi, would install properly. And then I did a reboot after installing the drivers, and everything ran properly, so I left it alone. But I am running the 3.16 kernel. I'd much prefer to go to the 4.09, I believe it is, kernel. But I'm going to do that, but I don't think it's going to boot properly. Let's take a look at something. Synaptic just popped up a little while ago telling me that I had a, let's see if there's an update. Well, let's see what Synaptic says, because I had an update reminder pop up a little while ago, and it told me that it was going to install the new kernel. And if I mark all upgrades, you can see that these are going to be removed, which are quite a lot, and to be installed, you will see that it wants to install the new kernel. And as you can see, there are a lot of installation options, so I have a feeling it's going to break the system. And you can see Linux image 4.9.0-3, which is the kernel that I want to go to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to and so let me wrap up this Point Linux by saying I really like Point Linux, but I wish the developers would update the distribution. It seems like it doesn't get a lot of attention, and it's very, very slow. Most of the Debian distributions, like Sparky, like SolydX, like Voyager, they've all updated, already upgraded to the new stretch. Point Linux lags behind. It takes them quite a long time to get things updated to the new stable. So I wish they would accelerate that process. So I'm going to leave Point Linux right where it is and move on to the next distribution. So guys, I'll be right back with you, and I will let you know as soon as I sign back in what happened with Point Linux. So I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, guys. Just to let you guys know, I did the update on Point Linux, and it updated perfectly. I'm running the 4.9 kernel with NVIDIA, Realtek Wi-Fi, everything. After doing the update and rebooting, everything's fine. So I'm going to leave it installed because I really like it, and I'm going to put it through a few tests. And if anything changes, I'll make another video. But as of now, if you want to go for Point Linux, just disable the Point Linux repos, change the word Jesse to stable, update, and you should be good to go. Now you will have to manually install your proprietary, your non-free drivers like I did, but I've got a video that I did last week on that. Just use that process, you should be fine. So Point Linux, again, I do hope they update to 9, Debian 9, so that you don't have to jump through all these hoops to get it up to the latest Debian stable. Now this, as you can see, is SolidX. It has been updated to Debian stable, which is the stretch version, Debian 9. The install went perfectly, no problems at all. I had to install NVIDIA and Realtek manually, as I have had to do with every Debian distribution of late. If we go through the menu and see if there are any SolidX proprietary utilities, I don't see a whole lot. Now I will say that for print settings, Debian has been great lately. I don't have to install my printer at all. You can see that it identified it, it configured it, and it runs properly. So hats off to Debian, because not every distribution does that. But right now, at least my printer is configured and working properly right out of the box. Now if we take a look at the XFCE menu and go to System, it's got a Debian Plymouth Manager, Lucky Backup. You can add or remove software installed on the system. the packages application. Updater, let's see, Samba for network sharing with Windows. SolydX, okay, system settings. We'll come back to that in a moment. Welcome screen. Now from this welcome screen you can install software. Now it's got a little bit of information and some links, which is very helpful. If I click next, it gives you some information on Flash. Now you can install multimedia codecs just by clicking here, and it will install Flash and a few other things, but it does give you a warning. And if I click on that, right now it's going through the installation process. Shouldn't take long. And it more than likely will give me a message that it's done. Now I installed pretty much the codecs that I usually install. I did that manually when I updated. So the codecs have been installed. If I go to next, LibreOffice, I'm able to install it. And I can install some business applications also. New Cache, Dollar Project, Libre. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. Home applications, you can install GIMP, Inkspace, Shotwell, Clementine, Handbrake, Sound Converter. Now it gives you the two choices because on SolidX you get the Pitivi, on SolidK you get the Kdenlive. So there are two packages depending on which version of Solid you installed. I installed SolidX. I'm not a big KDE fan, so if I were to install this, I would get Shotwell, Clementine, and Pitivi and Transmission. I'm not going to do that. I don't really use those applications. So if I click next, system applications, you can install Gparted, VirtualBox, FileZilla. And then you've got games. You can install Steam, Mindtest, OAD, Battle for West North, Sauerbraten, Neverball, Super Tux Kart. So you do have easy install of some common applications. And then you also have the ability to install Play on Linux. Now I haven't done any of those because I just install the ones that I'm normally used to. So let's take a look if we have any other proprietary applications. So let's go down the list of all. Got ClamTK for antivirus. Everything else is pretty much run-of-the-mill. I mean, there's nothing, I don't see anything that's really out of the ordinary. Got a password manager, Light DM, Lucky Backup, package updater, and there are no updates available. So I don't see anything other than that welcome screen, which gives you easy options for installing software. And let's take a look at the system settings. Everything else is pretty much run-of-the-mill. Okay, so there's a bug in system settings. So if I go back to SolidXK system settings, and it doesn't look like that functions. Yeah, so there is no system settings for SolidX. It's probably like the standard settings. I'm sure it gives you a few extra settings. Now this is the XFCE settings manager. As you can see, it's got the normal choice of utilities. So this is pretty much run of the mill. Now I will say that I do like the aesthetics of the distribution. The the theming and the icons are nice. They've done a good job with that. It's a little bit different than most, which is a good thing. At least it provides some variety, and of course you can change that if you like. If I go to appearance, you've got the Breeze X, Graybird, SolidX. So you've got a whole bunch of choices on theming. And then you've got the Evolvier flat, vivid, sunken icons. And you've got other options that you could go to there. Now, as I said, I installed my Realtek Wi-Fi and my NVIDIA drivers manually. There is no utility to do that. Even when there is a utility within Debian, I find that they don't always work properly, so I end up installing them manually right out of the box. I know it works, and so I'd rather, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just install it the way I normally do. I've got instructions for that in a separate video. So guys, this is SolidX. I'm gonna be right back, and I'll be in the next Debian distribution, which is going to be Sparky Linux. I'll be right back, guys. And welcome back, guys. And as you can see, now we're in Sparky Linux. Now Sparky, this is pretty much how it looks out of the box. I think it comes with a lighter panel. I changed it to a dark, and I also changed the start button. You can see here. Ordinarily, it comes with this here, and I changed to this here. So I like the look a little bit better. Nothing wrong with the Sparky logo. It's just that it's a little bit plain. The font is too light for the panel, and it's not easy to change it. So I went with this little blue start button, which I found on the internet, and it's very easy to install that. Now, Sparky, I had no issues at all with the install. I had no issues. I did have to install NVIDIA and Realtek Wi-Fi manually because the installer did not work properly. If I go into, let's see, System Tools, I believe, there is a driver installer that did not function properly. Now I am running the LXDE version and not the XFCE version. But you can see with NVIDIA I have the 375/66. The device driver manager, I tried it from my NVIDIA. It did not work. I ended up having to, even though it looks like it's installed, it is, but I had to do it manually. Now, Sparky, unlike the last two that I looked at, which was Point Linux and SolidX, Sparky comes with a ton of proprietary utilities. if I go into System Tools, you've got apt-us, apt-us extra. Those are the two main ones, but and the Sparky Center for LXDE. As you can see, lots of utilities related to LXDE. Now, I did configure the OpenBox configuration file so that my Windows open in the center and my volume keys on my keyboard will adjust the volume. And I do that with every LXDE distribution that I install. And that worked fine, no problem at all. You can see there's a Compton manager, a Conkey manager. There's your customized look and feel. You've got the LXDE menu editor. There's the OpenBox configuration manager. So there are lots of utilities that I was able to take advantage of within this Sparky Center menu. Now, the default applications for LX Session, and that's where you normally set up your auto start. If I go to default applications, you can see it's there. I had to install it myself. It did not work out of the box. There was no default applications for LX Session. I wanted to set up my auto start programs, and I noticed I couldn't find the default applications for LX Session, and so I ended up having to install it myself. If I go to the terminal, let's see if I can find, yeah. So you see this LX Session default apps? That is the program I had to install in order to get default applications for LX Session. So if you're going to install Sparky LXDE, I would advise you to install that. That way you can easily set up your auto start applications. Now, getting back to the Sparky Center, as you can see, there are lots of utilities, Bluetooth Manager, and that's where Sparky differentiates itself from the other Debian distributions. There's all kinds of, now see the system upgrade? A few minutes ago, before I started video or filming this, a little notice popped up, said, "You've got some updates, do you want to install it?" I clicked OK. It goes through the whole process automatically. It's really, really designed very, very well. System utilities, including firewall and so many things to make your life, your Linux life, your day-to-day Linux life easier. Adding users, Adobe Flash Player. So as you can see, they provide a lot out of the box for you to help you configure it just the way you want it. Now, if I go to apt extra, you can see that this is a utility to help you install lots of packages that don't come installed out of the box, but this makes it very easy. Google Chrome, Google Earth, Grub Customizer, and the list goes on and on. So they've pretty much got all the bases covered. And as I said, I am using Debian stretch on another partition, and I really like it. I like it because I can build it just the way I want. It doesn't come with a lot of pre-installed software. I install my drivers, I get all the packages installed that I want to use on a daily basis, and Debian runs rock solid. But if you're not yet that fluent or capable within Debian, and you want to try Debian, out of the 4 distributions that I looked at, SolydX, Linux, Sparky, and plain old Debian stretch, I would have to give the edge to Sparky. Now, this also includes, I didn't look this time around at Voyager. I've done a couple of Voyager videos in the past. I like Voyager, but I I believe Voyager has become a little bit too busy, a little bit too complex, too many things that I personally do not use. A lot of things that are installed out of the box that I believe the average user will not take advantage of. So, for the average user who wants to get involved in Debian, my choice would be Sparky. And as you can see from all the utilities that I've showed you, it's really miles ahead of the other Debian distributions as far as what it provides for you out of the box. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this little look at a few different Debian distributions. I'm not going to show you the Debian stretch today because I did a prior video last week on that, where you can take a look at that and see Debian stretch. But as far as these three distributions, I would say that Sparky wins hands down. So guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for stopping by the channel today. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care.